Today's episode is based from The Inevitable Split, a document on state-sponsored ethnic cleansing in Manipur 2023, published by Kuki Student Organization and Zomi Student Federation. Recent precedents to the ethnic cleansing. The Manipur state-sponsored ethnic cleansing is a direct outcome of the majority Meitei, long-standing attempt to grab tribal lands through any and every means. Here, the subversion of constitutional safeguards and protections of tribals in Manipur state. The interview of Nishikant Sopam, a Meitei member of Legislative Assembly with The Wire, confirms and reveals, once again and in the public domain, that the whole targeting fundamentally converges over the issue of tribal land, going by their narrative. The Meiteis had at least 1,000 years to settle in the hills, but there is no evidence of them ever settling in the hills. The hills were as alien to them as the valley is for the hill inhabitants. All of their habitations are evidence that they preferred the valleys. The Kabo Valley of Myanmar, and the plains of Kakar, or Barak Valley. They have never been hill people in all of their history. Today, the Meiteis can settle in parts of the hills with the approval and permission of the district council and the deputy commissioner. However, what they are seeking, which is free access to and full ownership of tribal lands, is impossible and unconstitutional. But this remains their ultimate end: the conversion of tribal lands into state-owned, and subsequently Meitei-owned and Meitei-settled lands. They are willing to pursue this end at all costs, and as this ethnic cleansing have shown, even at the cost of exterminating the entire indigenous tribal communities. While the Meitei primarily wants tribal lands for exploitation and business purposes, land for the tribals is quintessence to their way of life, identity, livelihood, culture, and survival. It is the very fabric of who they are. The rise of a communal chief minister. The then chief minister of Manipur, Mr. N. Byron Singh, can be considered to be one of the most communal chief minister in the history of Manipur state. He is the purest embodiment of the radical supremacist Meitei bigotry and partisanship in all forms. The much-hyped go-to-hills policy in his first tenure as chief minister quickly transformed into burn the hills or blame the hills and slaughter the hill inhabitants in his second tenure, when the party achieved absolute majority in the state legislature. He soon became arrogant and allowed his true communal colors to burst forth. In his official capacity as the CM and also as the Home Minister in charge, he is directly responsible for relentlessly targeting the tribal, particularly the Kuki-Zo people, under different guises. While the separatist valley-based insurgent groups, who rejected the Constitution of India, continue to carry out anti-national activities, such as the ambush and killing of security forces and inhumane activities such as the raping of tribal women in various parts of the state, the present CM continues to focus his attention exclusively on the suspension of operation groups. He repeatedly claims that the militarization of the state is a consequence of the activities of these groups, while turning a blind eye to the valley-based secessionist groups, who continue to operate freely without any restriction or condemnation. And Byron Singh has left no stone unturned in attempting to destabilize the ongoing political talks with the Sioux groups, who are seeking a political solution within the Indian constitution. The chief minister also launched an alarming crackdown on any criticizers of his actions and policies, no matter how petty it is. One recent case is that of Mr. Hanglaw Muhain, a resident of Zomi Bethel, Tura Chenpur, who was arrested on the 30th of April 2023 on account of a screenshot he posted in his Facebook page. He was taken into custody by a combined force of Impal Eastern Tura Chenpur District Police on the pretext of questioning him in regard to his post. Sadly, he died while in police custody at Impal, and his parents do not know the whereabouts of his lifeless body. Only recently, the CM tried to unilaterally withdraw the Manipur state government from the tripartite talks in an attempt to usurp the ongoing, peaceful political talks, in direct contravention of the Sioux ground rules and the Bharatiya Janata Party. stated policy of settling conflicts through dialogue. He immediately flew to Delhi to get the center to agree on the abrogation of the Sioux talks. He was humiliated by the central leadership, who reprimanded him for this reckless action, and stated in no uncertain terms that the state government cannot unilaterally withdraw from the peace talks. 3 of the tribal churches that were demolished in wee hours of April 2023, namely the Evangelical Baptist Convention Church, Evangelical Lutheran Church, Manipur and Catholic Holy Spirit Church, were carried out on the pretext of an anti-encroachment drive, despite many Meitei temples and structures guilty of more serious encroachment issues. The tackling of shallow and selective issues, without going to the root cause, is a theme that predominantly characterizes his policies, and Byron Singh manipulates his office and government functionaries, both to target a particular ethnic community, and also to protect himself at the same time. Interestingly, he will be guilty on all counts if he pursues his war on drugs and other such policies to its full conclusion. Unpacking the war on drugs, based on the Narcotic and Affairs of Border website of Manipur Police. The majority of the opium manufacturing laboratories are in the Manipur Valley. The largest drug kingpin in the state is linked to the CM's wife and one of his most trusted cabinet ministers. None of the drug lords belonging to the Meitei and Pango community have ever been arrested till date. While the cycle of cultivation, harvest, production, marketing is intrinsically linked together, with the cultivators often unfamiliar with the much larger drug trade and business, it is them that continues to be the center of war on drugs attention. It must be noted that apart from occasional photo ops showing state police destroying already cultivated poppy fields, no serious efforts have been taken to uproot this cycle to any degree. At the heart of this business lies a fight over who will monopolize the highly profitable drug business. Even if the government becomes serious about stopping poppy cultivation, which, it must be noted, is firmly supported by all the tribal churches and civil society organizations, and the clampdown is successful at some point in the future, there is absolutely no guarantee that the menace of drug will disappear anytime soon. As long as the drug lords and kingpins and the political leadership are connected in the way that it is in Manipur, any war on drugs is likely to be a sham. In Manipur, the real drug business is controlled by those with impunity in the Impal Valley. So far, the careless branding of the whole tribals, particularly the Kukizo people, as poppy cultivators and the blanket claim that they are illegal immigrants, is used as part of a malicious design to discredit an entire community and subsequently confiscate tribal lands. The CM and his team has used this concocted narrative to openly state in the mission organic value chain development for Northeastern Region Phase 3 program that the village chiefs on whose land poppy cultivation is undertaken will be held accountable and the village will be de-recognized. He further mentioned that the land will then be passed on to the Manipur government. However, he has limited his policies and war on drugs to a particular ethnic community, and has failed to pursue and apply his own policies to all areas of Manipur, including the Naga and Meitei areas where poppy cultivation is significantly present. The misinformed illegal immigrants charge, in some of the most spiteful and communally charged remarks, and Byron Singh has openly accused the Kukizo people as foreigners or illegal immigrants time and again, inciting communal hatred and even violence in the process. This not only reflects his ignorance of the history of Manipur Kingdom and the history of the tribals in Manipur State, but also his incompetency to bring the diverse ethnic communities together. It is well established that tribals have settled in the hills for centuries, and predate the arrival of the British by centuries. The present conglomeration of parts of the erstwhile Naga Hills, erstwhile Northern Chin Hills, and the erstwhile Meitei Kingdom, is a delicate union that has produced either very good statesmen or very communal leaders in the recent history of modern Manipur. N. Byron Singh is a prime example of the latter. He has completely failed the state and its multi-ethnic citizens. In an online interview with Wasbur Hussain of Northeast Live on March 10, 2023, N. Byron Singh made a sweeping statement against the Kuki-Zo people. These people are encroaching everywhere, whatever the protected forests or reserve forests, and planting poppy plantation and doing drug business. So the government has gone all out against these elements. In a damning statement against such irresponsible statements, the Chief Justice of India on May 17, 2023 remarked that some restraint must be there by public figures for making communal statements. It is well known that the Kuki-Zo people are proud citizens of India and patriots who have contributed not only towards its India freedom movement and its independence movement in the past, but also its nation building in almost every field in the present. Not many tribals in India are able to surpass the contributions that the tribals of Manipur have made to the nation. Whitewashing indigenous history in the name of archaeology. Another aspect of the land-grabbing scheme that the state government has recently introduced is the invocation of mythical Meitei icons and Meitei gods to transform tribal lands into archaeological sites. The recent case of Kaupru, which is proclaimed as Lapam, meaning the seed of the Meitei god, and the case of Chivu near Bihang, where the alleged footprints of Meitei Maharaja Chandrakirti was found, were invoked to sacralize tribal lands, rename and build commemorative and religious structures in those places. In both of these cases, the indigenous tribal narratives and the sacredness of these places to the tribals were completely and blatantly ignored. Until recently, these tribal forests and the hills were foreign to the Meiteis, and the state government never had any interest in developing them. However, the strategic importance of these border areas under the present Union government's Act East policy and its possible significance for long-term thriving trade has seen the rewriting and imposition of majoritarian history and culture upon these once far-removed hill areas. As the Meitei Maharaja had never set foot in these hills, the recent attempts to claim ownership by using the state apparatus were regarded as a grave affront by the tribals. Despite widespread public opposition, the communal land-grabbing projects at Kevu called Chandrakirti Park was pushed as an intermediary to development in those parts of the hills through a carrot-and-stick policy. Further, the claim to those places was rationalized in media outlets through a distorted interpretation of historical data and records maintained during the Lushai expedition and prior. Procedural lapses and shrinking tribal habitation. This state-sponsored ethnic cleansing is a direct outcome of the majority Meitei's attempt to grab tribal lands and subvert constitutional protections of tribals. The state government headed by N. Byron Singh has declared reserve forest, protected forest, wildlife sanctuaries, national parks, and wetlands over a majority of tribal lands without the knowledge and consent of the tribal landowners. This is a serious and unconstitutional procedural lapse. Thus, the official rhetoric of encroachers is the attempt to alienate tribal populations from their land. Two illuminating cases are provided here. Number 1. Under the direction of the Manipur government, an eviction drive was carried out on the 20th of February 2023 at Kaesongjin village. The Manipur government claimed that the village was newly set up in the year 2021. However, the village was in fact among the many villages destroyed in the violence of the Kukanaga clashes in 1993. The people pleaded with the officials, but to no avail. The Indigenous Tribal Leaders Forum and other civil society organizations carried out a peaceful protest rally against this forced eviction, and somehow this protest antagonized the Meitei communities, who time and again understood themselves as agents of the state government. Number 2. Tensions have also been flaring up in villages under the proposed Churakampur and Kupum protected forest. In November 2022, the Manipur government issued a special order which set aside the orders passed in the objection cases, excluding villages from the proposed protected forest area in the 1970s and early 1980s. With this order, 38 villages in Kirakumpur became encroachers overnight. In April 2023, there were attempts by the Forest and Revenue Departments to conduct a joint survey in the disputed protected forest. Here too, the ITLF opposed the joint survey and pointed out that the consent of affected villages were not taken and due process not followed. If all the proposed reserved forests, protected forests, wildlife sanctuaries and other declarations are implemented, the tribals will have less than 10% of their present area for their habitation and livelihood. As forest issues are a sensitive matter, concerns were raised by tribal member of the Legislative Assembly in the Assembly. Sakat Assembly constituency, Representative Mr. Palyan Lohaukip, also forwarded his queries directly to the concerned Minister, Forest, Power, Environment, but no response have been forthcoming from the minister till date. The Lysing Spark, who pulled the trigger. On 3rd of May 2023, all of Manipur's hill districts were urged to participate in a non-violent tribal solidarity march, called by the All-Tribal Student Union of Manipur, under the theme "Come, Let Us Reason Together." The call was unequivocally supported by all the tribal organizations to oppose. The High Court's recommendation, WPC number 229 of 2023, to the state legislature, for inclusion of the majority Meitei in the scheduled tribe list. It must be noted here that the protest was organized in a peaceful manner in the tribal hill districts of Chura Champa, Senapati, Kampukpi, Chandal, Tamenglong, Tongnopal, Orrol. The valley-based Mate organizations, upon learning about the rally, reacted by organizing counter-blockades in the valley areas the evening before the peaceful rally. The peaceful rally proceeded as planned in all the hill districts of Manipur, and saw widespread participation by all tribals, including the Kuki Naga, Hamar, Mizo, Zomi, etc. In the district of Chura Chanpur, the rally ended peacefully at 1:05 p.m. after a memorandum was submitted to the Honorable President and Honorable Prime Minister of India, through the Deputy Commissioner by the tribal civil societies and students' organizations. What triggered the immediate violence was the burning of the Anglo-Kuki War Gate, which is one of the important symbols of the Kuki resistance against the mighty British rule in Lysing village by some Meitei miscreant. The gate was erected to commemorate the Anglo-Kuki War of 1917 to 1919, where the Kuki people bravely defended their land against the British. Based on the eyewitness account, the miscreants arrived in a white bolero and started the fire before fleeing. However, the conflict between the two parties didn't start until the miscreant assaulted the returning rally-goers who resided in the border areas of Shirakampur district. The problem escalated when one of those rally-goers, Pastor Seko Haukipkin, was beaten to death by the radical Meitei groups, and houses belonging to the Kuki communities were set ablaze at Kangbai, which is located 2 kilometers from Lasung. The violence swept across the capital city like wildfire. The radical Meitei mob carried out a systematic arson and extermination in the capital city, Imphal, and other valley districts soon after. Having identified tribal houses, rentals, churches, hostels, and educational institutions a month before the ethnic cleansing through official and unofficial means, the organized mobs were able to immediately identify all tribal residences in a matter of hours. This ensured the targeted destruction of all tribal homes, properties, and places of worship without any hindrances. The Meiteis in different districts of the Imphal Valley had been mobilizing themselves for months. Many indicators present a clear impression that the incidents were premeditated in tribal habitations and enclaves in the Imphal Valley. Houses belonging to the Kuki communities were surveyed by persons who claimed to be state officials and marked with colors and numbers months before the eruption of violence. Those houses which were marked were specifically the ones that were burned by the radical Meitei mob. As a ploy to silence the tribals, the chief minister inducted 2 Kuki member of Legislative Assembly members into his council of ministers. The Meitei Lipin and Arambai Tengal were radicalized, indoctrinated and armed against the Kuki-Zo communities. After the Armed Forces Special Power Act was removed from the capital Impal Valley, it was further removed from Wangoy, Limacong, Nambol, and Morang parts of Valley districts in March 2023. Next episode will be on crimes against humanity. Thanks for listening and watching.